Yesterday, the Snapdragon Summit was held, where Qualcomm presented the new Snapdragon 8 Elite, its most powerful processor. So if MediaTek had already surprised us with the Dimensity 9000, Qualcomm did not want to be left behind. And in this processor, we have seen an exaggeratedly high evolution with respect to the last generation. Remember that this processor becomes the next generation of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, but it will not retain this same nomenclature. It is now called Snapdragon 8 Elite, and this name change is not only due to a whim, but specifically there is also a change in the architecture that Qualcomm will use in this processor, as it will integrate Orion cores, which are those that debuted in the Snapdragon X Elite, which was a processor focused on laptops. So in this case it integrates a CPU capable of reaching up to 4.32 GHz. It's a complete beast. In fact, it's 2 cores that have the maximum power, and then it's 6 cores that are performance focused and go up to 3.53 GHz. Interestingly, in this case there are no efficiency cores, as we see in other processors running at a much lower frequency. So we will find a very high performance, and if the battery worries you, in this case being a second generation process in 3 nanometers built by TSMC, they ensure that it will be very efficient. The figures that Qualcomm shares regarding energy efficiency are 44% more in CPU, 40% more in GPU, 45% more in everything that has to do with artificial intelligence, and in general throughout the processor is 27% more efficient than the last generation. So as you realize, there's not much to worry about with respect to power consumption. On the other hand, the percentages shared with respect to power improvements are 45% more powerful in single core, 45% more powerful in multi-core, 62% more powerful in web browsing, 40% more powerful in gaming, and 35% more powerful in everything to do with ray tracing. So it's a processor with great capabilities not only for everyday activities, but obviously where it's going to be most noticeable is in very demanding games and everything that has to do with artificial intelligence. It supports LPDDR5X memory of up to 5.3 GHz for the manufacturer who wishes to integrate it, and it must be said that it also brings fully integrated support for Unreal Engine 5.3, which is a graphics engine that many games use, so we should also see an improvement there as developers adapt their games. Also, the ISP, which is the image signal processor that receives all the information from the camera to process it, has built-in artificial intelligence to improve all your pictures. For example, it knows how to recognize pets in order to emphasize their details. It also includes support for an object eraser within videos and other things that will surely surprise us in future releases of manufacturers that come to use this processor. Speaking of which, it has already been confirmed who will be the first manufacturers to integrate this processor. The first to make the global debut seems to be Xiaomi with its Series 15. Another device that will integrate this processor will be the Realme GT7 Pro. In fact, it has already been confirmed that this device will be the first to debut with this processor in Mexico. There is still no date, but they say it will be the first. There is also obviously talk of Samsung Galaxy S25 series, which will probably be only in the Ultra model. In fact, TM Rowe himself, CEO of Samsung, appeared during the Snapdragon Summit at one of the conferences. Although he didn't speak or say anything, he simply went up to take the photo. So it is not 100% confirmed, but I think this action confirms in a big way that at least one of the Galaxy 25 series models is going to integrate this processor, or failing that a special edition for Galaxy. Although I doubt very much that they still want to overclock this processor that already by itself has a very high frequency. Another one that will integrate this processor will be the Magic 7 series of Honor. We do not know if in both models or only in one of the two, but soon we will know more information because it will be presented in October in China. In fact, the CEO of Honor also appeared during the Snapdragon Summit, although he did make a major demonstration showing the AI agent that will incorporate the Magic 7 Pro. It's a sort of virtual assistant, and it's kind of curious too, because we're not so sure if this is going to be present on the global model, because it's apparently a very China-focused feature. We will have to see if Honor reaches an agreement with Google to be able to remove Google Assistant or Google Gemini and give prominence to the AI agent, which apparently through voice could control many applications of your cell phone so that only with a voice command can do different actions. During this conference, Honor also showed how they have optimized the rendering of all graphics through the NPU to achieve a much more stable and cooler experience at the same time. So it will be important everything that Honor has to show in its presentation in China of this device, but most importantly in its global presentation, to see if they manage to take advantage of all the capabilities of this processor. Also, Vivo X200 Ultra will integrate this processor, unlike its smaller brothers who opted for the Dimensity 9000. On the other hand, OnePlus 13 will also be another of these devices with this new processor. It will be unveiled on October 31st. There is also the Asus ROG Phone 9 that will be presented on November 29th, and although Red Magic is not mentioned, I am sure they will also launch another model with this processor. One more is the iQOO 13. Although remember that even though this brand is owned by Vivo, they actually launch it only in China, so I don't think we will see a global launch of this device at some point. It is said that it could debut in India on December 5th, but in Mexico and on this side of the world they have no plans to launch this device. Mr. Tinda.